Now, after you have done that, you have assessed the uh, community needs, you have conducted community needs assessment, and also you have mapped the assets that are present in that community. From that, you have um, you have started developing your initiative using the results from your need assessment and your asset mapping. Before you can fully launch that initiative, you need to perform what is called SWOT analysis on that initiative so that you'll be able to identify the strengths, the weakness, the opportunities and threats for that initiative. You need to perform SWOT analysis on that initiative you have developed. Remember the process of needs assessment, because asset mapping is also under needs assessment. It's also under assessing, not under needs assessment. It's also under assessing the community. So after you have done all that, you are now using that information you have gotten through your needs assessment and assets mapping to develop the initiative. You need to perform SWOT analysis before you launch out that initiative. So how can you perform SWOT analysis? Let's look at the techniques. Brainstorming is there. You can never underrate people's contribution. When you facilitate brainstorming sessions, people will come out with different lists. Even the funniest or the silliest list can make sense at the end of the day. So you need to leverage on people. Brainstorm, facilitate brainstorming sessions so that people will start identifying the strength in the initiative you have designed or developed, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, so that at the end of the day, after this initiative is developed, you are rest assured that you have analyzed the strength, the weakness, opportunities, and threats. And because you have done this, you are expecting a better outcome from your community engagement. Remember that community engagement is tailored towards getting people involved. So if your initiative is lacking some elements, at the end of the day, you may not be able to get the best out of this initiative. So we have brainstorming, SWOT and SWOT matrix. SWOT matrix. SWOT matrix is a visual matrix or visual map to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As we move on, we'll be talking about SWOT matrix in details. Stakeholder input is also there. After you have developed your initiative, you may want to also gather input of stakeholders. It could be other organizations, it could be partner organizations, so that they'll be able to provide their own recommendations. They will be able to certify that, okay, this will work, this may not work, and all that. From this input, you'll be able to know how to shape your initiative better. Let's talk about a SWOT matrix. Like I mentioned earlier, a SWOT matrix is a visual representation of a SWOT analysis, which assesses an organization, project or initiative's internal strengths and weaknesses, along with external opportunities and threats. Now, if you are conducting a SWOT matrix, what you have to do is to plot some sort of quadrants. You have that 4 quadrants. You could use your cardboard, you could use your book, you could use your computer to do that. You have to label it as positive, the left upper quadrant, the right upper quadrant as negative, then the side, the upper quadrant as internal, the lower quadrant as external. Now you need to write where your strength is, just like the picture you are seeing here. So you need to start listing as you are brainstorming, you are listing the strength. You need to start writing it under. Once you identify a strength, write it under where you have strength. Once you identify weakness, write it under where you have weakness. The same goes for opportunities and strength. Now let's look at strength, internal, positive. So you have to list the factors, the internal factors. That means within the initiative, because this what matrix is talking about, your own initiative and your own organization, not the community. Now you know that you have performed your needs assessment and you have mapped the assets. What you are doing now is to weigh how well your initiative will perform, how well your initiative will solve the problem or the challenges you have identified in that community. Now, you need to check the factors, the internal factors that contribute positively to the initiative you are planning for. What are the internal factors? Do you have funding? Do you have enough funding? Do you have human capacity? Do you have resource? Do you have people that are exceptional, people that have high skills, people that have knowledge in whatever you want to engage the community with? Those are your strengths within your organization. Those are your strengths. So you need to list out those factors. Consider what the initiative will do well. After you have developed your initiative, look at what it will do well and its advantage, competitive advantages. You could check organizations that have done something similar and see what you have, the edge you have over that organization or that initiative. So you highlight the resources, the skills or attributes that give the initiative an edge, just like I've mentioned. For the weaknesses, which is also under internal negative, you have to identify the internal factors that pose challenges or constraints. It could be time constraint. It could be time constraint. It could be time constraint. It could be funding. It could be resource constraints. Maybe you don't have enough funding for that. It's a weakness. So you need to consider that too. Considering that will help you to rework your initiative, your project, or your community engagement efforts that you are planning on. So once you have identified this, you need to also write it under weakness. You need to reflect on areas where improvement is needed or where the initiative may lag behind. So opportunities and threats, they are external. We have the opportunities, which is positive, of course. So you need to look into the external space and see the factors that you could leverage on. Now, external now in the sense that you can look into the community. You can look into the community. You can look into the you can check the stakeholders, the key stakeholders, the factors, what you can leverage on that will benefit the initiative. So as you are getting those factors, you need to start listing them under opportunities. So you explore external factors that could be leveraged for the initiative benefit. It could be that the external opportunities could be that the community you want to engage has a lot of resources, so you don't need to maybe spend too much on that aspect. Is an opportunity. So that will also shape how your budget will be designed and all that. Threats, external negative. You need to start thinking of the external factors that could hinder your initiative progress. Now you need to consider the potential challenges, competition, or risks that might arise. Maybe that initiative may have a particular aspect that may give you tough time. Maybe that a part of the initiative is to talk to uh, people that are always busy. Could be stakeholders that are always busy. It could be a challenge because it will affect your engagement, your communication, and even it might affect the outcome of your initiative. That means you need to check your initiative again and see whether you can modify that aspect of your initiative once you have already identified the threat. So that is how to use the SWOT matrix in analyzing the initiative you have developed. So SWOT matrix is a technique that is used to perform SWOT analysis. So we also have comparative analysis. Comparative analysis is another technique to perform SWOT analysis. After you have identified the internal strengths and weaknesses using the SWOT matrix, you can now start comparing your results, and from this you can draw insights that will shape the initiative you are trying to develop. Expert insights. So you can seek input from experts or consultants that will provide objective perspectives. They will scrutinize it. They will scrutinize your initiative, and from there see where the weaknesses are or the strengths are. So you can do that. It's a way of analyzing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the initiative you have designed. Data review also helps because when you review the data from the internal and external sources, you'll be able to identify the areas that cause for concern. Because you have your initiative designed, if you are able to review data from internal and external sources, maybe within your organization, you can check what information that will benefit the initiative. You can check if this information is available, if it's not available, or you can also check the community and see if what you need for the initiative is available or is not available. Now, reviewing that data will help you to know where your initiative might face challenges, and these are the weaknesses, or where your initiative can perform better, which are the strengths. So that is about the techniques of performing SWOT analysis to check how well your initiative will perform. That is your community engagement effort. So let's talk about the ethical considerations and cultural sensitivity. It is important to understand the ethical and cultural sensitivity of the community you are going into. You need to address potential conflicts of interest and ethical dilemmas. Remember that you are preparing for community engagement. That means everything must be set before you start implementing this community engagement effort, so that it will not get to that time and you will be meeting unnecessary challenges. So you need to address everything and also understand the your role in cultural from the cultural angle and the ethical angle. Now, how do you address potential conflicts of interest? There's no way there won't be any potential conflicts of interest. Now, how do you address it? Transparency. You need to clearly communicate the roles, the responsibility, and affiliations of all stakeholders involved in the engagement process. Remember that you have been involving, you have been engaging the stakeholders already, right from the time you have started preparing for your community engagement through the stakeholders identification, stakeholders analysis, stakeholder the needs assessment that you have conducted. So to address potential conflicts of interest, you need to be transparent in your communication. You need to be transparent, because transparency helps to identify potential conflicts of interest upfront. So by communicating each of the roles of your stakeholders clearly, their responsibility and affiliations, you'll be able to see where you can have conflicts of interest. And once you've been able to identify the conflicts of interest upfront, it will help you to resolve it. And as you are implementing your community engagement effort initiative, it will not affect you by that time. Disclosure. You need to encourage stakeholders to disclose any potential conflicts of interest they may have. You need to make sure they are voicing out, they are speaking up, and this could include financial interests, personal relationships, or affiliations. I could remember that when we were interviewing ambassadors for the campaign, the EP election campaign, that there was at a point we asked if ambassadors belong to a party, belong to a political party, so that we need to understand if there is a particular affiliations that will affect our own program or project. So we need to encourage stakeholders to disclose, because you are also a stakeholder in this project. So you need to encourage stakeholders to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. We know that when you belong to a political party, it could affect your participation. It could cause conflicts of interest. You may not have that time to invest in this project, because you have another similar engagement that is dragging for your attention. So the same thing you can do when you are trying to plan for your community engagement initiative. You need to encourage stakeholders to disclose any potential conflicts of interest they may have. We also have mitigation measures. If you have identified conflicts of interest, you need to implement measures to mitigate their impact. This could involve adjusting roles. So when we notice that there are some people that we interviewed that cannot vote for they cannot vote during the EP during the European Parliament election that is coming up, we adjusted their roles. We made sure that they are still involved, but we adjusted their roles from the ambassador to a volunteer ambassador. They are still involved, but they have their own aspects of involvement. So mitigation, that is an example of mitigation measures. It could be that you have to adjust roles or involve additional stakeholders so that you will have better outcomes from your community engagement efforts. Balanced representation. You need to be keen on diversity. You need to be keen on diversity. You need to strive for balanced representation so that you minimize uh, you minimize the influence of some specific interest dominating the engagement process, so that you get to have diverse views, diverse representation, so that the your community engagement effort will not be skewed towards some certain uh, population. So you need to balance representation. You need to consider that also as you are planning for your community engagement. Independent facilitation, you can consider using an independent facilitator or mediator to lead engagement activities when you want to be neutral and impartial. Let's take, for example, the community you are engaging. You are part of that community. You are a resident in that community. So it is easy for you to be partial because you know people in that community. You are part of them. But the you need to consider uh, being ethical. So when you want to be ethical, you need to step back and allow somebody that is not a part of that community to step in. That is how you can ensure impartiality and neutrality. So that is that about um about potential conflicts of interest. So let's look at addressing ethical dilemmas. So you have to take this very, very important, because they are key aspects of community engagement. One is informed consent. Ensure that your stakeholders are fully informed about the engagement process. If you want to um, take pictures and you want to use it on social media, or you want to use it for a press release or a media project, you need to inform these people that this is what your pictures will be used for. If they agree, yes, you can go on to use it. If they don't agree, then you don't need to use it. So you need to be keen on getting your stakeholders fully informed about what they are getting into. Obtain their informed consent before involving them. Now, if you are using pictures, before you can take picture or use picture, make sure they have filled a consent form where they will sign and agree that this is my picture, this is I agree that it should be used for media purposes and all that. So somebody that is not interested in filling the form, that is telling you that that person is not interested in sharing his or her picture. You also have to respect autonomy. You need respect for autonomy. Stakeholders can decide to withdraw at any time. They can decide to withdraw and say, okay, I'm no longer interested in this project. I don't want to get involved again. So, and you need to respect their decision without pressuring them, because they have the right, they have the autonomy. Confidentiality is also important. You need to protect sensitive information. Remember, we have what is called data policy. You need to protect people's data. You need to protect sensitive information. You need to also communicate how the information you are getting from the people, maybe during the needs assessment or the asset mapping. You need to tell them how the information will be used and shared. And if they agree, fine. If somebody is telling you that this interview that you are doing, please do not mention my real name or do not mention my face, do not show my face uh, in the media, um, maybe materials, then so be it. You have to adhere to whatever that person has requested for. Inclusivity is also important. You need to be inclusive. You need to design engagement activities that are inclusive and accessible to all stakeholders. You need to consider language, you need to consider accessibility, you need to consider cultural sensitivity. For example, if you are having a virtual meeting, because of people, maybe some people from the deaf community is attending that meeting, you need to provide people that will be interpreting for them, or you use a software that will subtitle whatever you are talking about in that meeting. If you are using a town hall, you need to make sure that it is accessible for people that are using wheelchair. So all these things you need to make sure they are considered. So inclusivity is very important in community engagement efforts, especially when you are designing your community engagement initiative. We also have equitable participation. Make sure that people are able to participate, they have equal opportunity, they're able to voice their opinions and also influence decisions. Avoid tokenism. What is tokenism? Tokenism is when you just put people there so that the public will see that, oh, these people are represented. But in the real sense, you are not engaging them meaningfully. So you need to always engage whatever people that are involved in your community engagement initiative meaningfully. So you need to plan that as you are preparing for your community engagement initiative. You need to have an aspect that would allow everyone to participate meaningfully, not just, okay, we want because we want people, some categories of people or some people from a particular community to be represented. We just want them to be represented. We really don't need their engagement. That is not the right thing to do in community engagement. Because you want to get everybody involved, you need to make sure that you are engaging them meaningfully. If you don't have the plan of engaging them meaningfully, don't involve them in the first place. So you need to avoid tokenism. So we also have conflict resolution. We have talked about conflict resolution before, but we still need to talk about it. You need to establish mechanism for addressing conflicts. You could provide a safe space for open dialogue and resolution. You could tell people that this interview, we are not going to be recording it, or we are not going to be showing it to another person. We are only using it to design our project, or to make sure that we are engaging people better. So if somebody is telling a story of conflicts or disagreements with other group of people or other stakeholder, you need to establish mechanism. If you have identified disagreement and conflict, you need to establish mechanism to address these conflicts and disagreements, because conflict has a way of shaping the outcome of your community engagement initiative. You need to also seek regular feedback. It is very important. You are not just engaging, you need to get feedbacks from them so that those feedbacks will help you to better design your engagement process. It will make you make adjustments in wherever you want to make adjustments. You need to understand this, because as you are planning to implement your community engagement initiative, you need to understand how to go about conflict resolution and also the ethical dilemmas. We have third party oversight. So sometimes you may want to involve third party organizations or experts to provide oversight and ensure that ethical standards are upheld. So maybe you are planning for a community town hall meeting. You may want to invite another organization to ensure that the process is inclusive for everyone. The process is inclusive, it's ethical, and they are able to say, okay, this is what we have identified. This is how you should have done it better. Because this third party is just like a third eye that will help you do better in your community engagement activities. Learning and improvement. The feedbacks and others that you get from this, the experiences, you may want to leverage on them, reflect on them, and use them to improve future engagement efforts. In summary, we have talked about assessing community needs and assets, which is key in preparing for community engagement initiative or community engagement activities. When you assess the community needs, it will give you insight on the needs, gaps, and challenges that the community is facing. And it will help you tailor solution towards addressing these needs. It will also help you to allocate resources well. Aside assessing community needs, you also need to map out assets. We have talked about the strategies you can use to map out assets. We talked about resource inventory, taking account of what is the resources that is present in the community that you can leverage on to make sure that your community engagement efforts get better. We also talked about the techniques you can use to carry out community needs assessments. We have discussed about ethical considerations and cultural sensitivity. We have talked about how to how to go about conflict resolution, and also how to go about ethical dilemmas. I have talked about that, and I'm sure that you have learned a lot from this module. You can write or write down your thoughts on the course platform on the key takeaways of this module. Let's look at the preview of module 3. In module 3, we'll be discussing the strategies for building community relationships. In module 3, we'll be looking at building trust and credibility within the community, effective communications techniques, utilizing social media and technology for engagement, and also collaborative partnerships and alliances. See you in module 3.